I never imagined that the woman who claimed she loved me like a daughter would one day throw boiling hot soup straight into my face, but that's exactly how this story begins. I still remember the sound, the sharp clang of the steel pot, the hiss of rising steam, and the trembling in her voice right before everything exploded. My name is Alina, and this is the story of how my mother-in-law nearly destroyed my life, but how one phone call from me changed everything in a way no one expected. It was a Saturday afternoon. My husband Aram had gone out to pick up groceries, leaving just me and his mother, Farzana, alone in the house. She'd never liked me, not from the first day, but she hid it behind a sweet smile in front of others, behind closed doors. It was a different story. That day, she walked into the kitchen and stood behind me while I stirred the soup for lunch. Her silence felt heavier than the hot air rising from the stove. I asked softly, "Amy, everything okay?" No response. She stepped closer, too close. Then suddenly, in a voice filled with venom, she whispered, "Everything was okay until you came into my son's life." Before I could turn, she grabbed the pot. I heard the scrape of metal. I felt the air shift. Then, splash, a wave of blistering hot soup hit the side of my face. I screamed, dropped to my knees. The heat was unbearable, like fire crawling across my skin. I clutched my face, shaking, tears falling instantly from the burning. Farzana didn't panic. She didn't rush to help. She didn't even look guilty. She just said, "You forced him to choose you. Now suffer the consequences." My breath stopped. I wasn't just hurt. I was terrified. I stumbled toward the sink, splashing cold water on my face, crying, shocked, unable to understand what had just happened. My skin felt raw. My chest tightened. Was this really happening? Right then, the front door opened. Arham walked in, carrying grocery bags, humming casually, until he saw me. "Alina?" He dropped everything. I couldn't speak. My hands were shaking. My face was red and blistering. But before I could explain, his mother stepped forward and said, "She did it to herself. She wasn't paying attention." I stared at her in disbelief. How can someone lie so easily? Arham looked back and forth between us, confused, scared, overwhelmed. This moment, this silence, this confusion, this was the moment that changed the course of our entire family. And what happened next was even more shocking. But before I tell you what happened after that moment, make sure to like this video and subscribe, because the next part will leave you speechless. Arham rushed to me and gently touched my arm. "Alina, what happened? Tell me the truth." I was trembling, not because of the burning, but because his mother stood right behind him, staring at me with cold, warning eyes. If I told the truth, she looked ready to do worse. But I couldn't lie. Not anymore. She threw it at me, I said quietly. Arham froze. His mother gasped dramatically. "You, Allah." "She's lying." I was only trying to help her. She tripped and... "Enough," Arham said. His voice was low, dangerous, and unfamiliar. He helped me to the couch and brought cool water, gently placing it on my face. He kept whispering, "I'm here. I'm here. I'm here." But I saw something else, too. Something breaking inside him. A trust. A belief. A lifelong image of who his mother was. Farzana walked around the living room, pacing angrily. She kept muttering, "She ruined my son. She ruined my home. She will not ruin my reputation." I felt a cold chill run through my body. Was this all about control? Arham sat next to me and said softly, I need to know everything, Alina. Did she hurt you before? Silence. My silence was the answer. His shoulders dropped. His eyes turned red. He covered his face with his hands, breathing heavily. What have you done, Amy? There was pain in his voice, the kind that comes from betrayal. Farzana snapped. I raised you. I gave you everything. And now you choose her over Emmy? She's my wife, Arham said. And you harmed her. The room exploded with yelling. Her accusations. His disbelief. My sobbing. At one point she shouted, if she stays in this house, I will leave. Arham stood up and said something that shook the walls of that house. Then leave. The silence afterward was suffocating. She stared at him as if he had stabbed her. Never in her life had he spoken back. Never. But he wasn't the only one who had changed. I suddenly felt strength rising in me too. I wasn't going to live in fear anymore. So when Farzana stormed into her room, slamming the door, I looked at Arham and whispered, I need help. Not just for my burns, but for everything we've been hiding. He nodded. I'll fix this. But even he didn't know that the real change wouldn't come from him. It would come from one call. A call I hadn't made in years. My father, a man who had been distant, strict, and emotionally cold my entire childhood. A man I hadn't spoken to in almost 2 years after a huge argument. But in this moment, I needed someone who could protect me. Someone who had power. Someone who wouldn't hesitate to fight for me. I took my phone with shaking fingers, scrolled through my blocked contacts, and unblocked his number. I pressed call. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then I heard his voice, deep and steady. Alina? My throat tightened. Baba, I need you. His response was instant. I'm coming. And that one call, that single moment, triggered a chain of events that none of us were prepared for. My father arrived in less than 20 minutes, not because he lived nearby, but because he drove like a man who had been waiting years for a chance to make things right. He stepped inside the house, saw my burnt cheek, and for the first time in my life, I saw fear in his eyes. Not anger, not disappointment. Fear. What happened to my daughter? He said quietly. Before I could speak, Farzana burst out of her room. Oh, so now her broken family is here to teach us how to live? Wonderful. My father turned slowly and looked at her. His expression didn't change, but something in the room shifted. This house is unsafe for my daughter, he said calmly. Arham stepped beside me. Yes, it is. Farzana scoffed. Both of you are ungrateful. I did nothing wrong. My father walked closer to her, not threatening, just firm. Burn marks don't lie. Her face twitched. He continued, you can hate her. You can dislike her. But you cannot harm her. She's ruining my son's life. Farzana shouted. I think, my father said softly, you've mistaken control for love. The room fell silent. Aram looked at his mother with pain filling his eyes. Amy, please. Why did you do this? Farzana's voice finally cracked. It wasn't anger anymore. It was fear of losing control. He will leave me, she whispered. All sons leave their mothers once they get married. My heart sank. This wasn't hatred. This was insecurity twisted into cruelty. Arham said, I'm not leaving you, but I can't stay near you if you hurt the person I love. Her tears finally fell. The anger melted, leaving only a fragile, broken woman. She looked at me, and for the first time in years, her voice softened. I was wrong. Those 3 words were barely audible, but they were real. My father glanced at me, waiting for my reaction. I took a deep breath. Amy, I whispered, I never wanted to take your son away. I just wanted a place in this family. Farzana covered her face and cried quietly. Her voice shook as she said, I'm sorry, Alina. And that was the moment everything changed. Not the phone call, not the argument, not the fight. It was the apology. My father placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. Come home with me for a few days, he said. You need rest. You need healing, both inside and out. Arham agreed. I'll bring her back once everything settles. Farzana nodded through tears. Those next few days with my father were the most peaceful days I'd had in years. He cooked for me, sat beside me, talked to me like a father who suddenly realized he had been distant for too long. One night, he said, that call meant everything to me. Thank you for trusting me. I smiled weakly. Thank you for coming, Baba. My burns healed slowly. My heart healed faster. A week later, Farzana called me herself. Her voice was soft, almost fragile. Come home, Beta, please. When I returned, she hugged me. For the first time ever that day, our family didn't become perfect, but it became honest. Comma. The lesson I learned? Sometimes people hurt you not because they hate you, but because they fear losing their place in your life. But no matter how dark things get, one courageous step, one honest conversation, or even one unexpected call can change everything. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful and emotional narratives.